The Cuban Missile Crisis and Blockade. The Cuban Missile Crisis, also known as October Crisis of 1962, was a confrontation between the U.S. and the Soviet Union about the missiles that the USSR had planted secretly in Cuba. Since the Bay of Pig invasion failed, the U.S. planted missiles in Turkey as a threat towards the Soviet Union, which led the leader Khrushchev to speak to Castro in July 1962 about placing ballistic missiles inside of Cuba in case a war breaks out. An American UT spy plane passed over Cuba on October 14, 1962, photographed a Soviet SS-4 medium-range ballistic missile being assembled for installation. October 22, 1962, Kennedy made a public announcement to the people about the missile attack that could happen and the blockade that he was going to create to stop the USSR from sending any more missiles inside of Cuba. October 24, 1962, the U.S. blocked the USSR from sending missiles into Cuba. The blockade led Khrushchev to speak to Kennedy about an agreement on October 26, stating the USSR will remove the missiles if the U.S. does not invade Cuba. The U.S. also agreed to remove their missiles out of Turkey.
Hello and welcome to the show with President Kennedy. To my fellow citizens, we the American government have decided to detail you the Cuban Missile Crisis to its full extent. Recently, we have maintained really close surveillance of the Soviet Union in the Cuba with their military. With our spy planes, we have noticed multiple missile sites which are being prepared. In these missile sites, the Soviets have put medium-range ballistic missiles containing a nuclear warhead for a distance of more than 1,000 nautical miles. In other terms, these missiles can hit us from the southeastern part of the US, the Caribbean, and Central America. They have also included ballistic missiles. These are able to strike us all the way from Canada to Lima, Peru. Which is quite a distance. So we are fearing our national security. It shall be the policy of this nation to regard any nuclear missile launched from Cuba against any nation in the Western Hemisphere as an attack by the Soviet Union on the United States, requiring a full retaliatory response upon the Soviet Union. Soviets have lied to us and told us they had no missiles. Yet they did. This was revealed through the Real Pact of 1947. So how can we trust the Soviets? We cannot have any threats to our own security, and definitely not to other nations' securities. I do not tolerate the missiles that are being displayed and therefore request their immediate removal. We have therefore decided to put a military quarantine around Cuba so nothing can come in or out of Cuba. The Soviet Union has tried to put their military power in the sea around the quarantine, but have decided to back off and instead sent us a few letters of thoughts that could resolve the situation. We went through a 13-day conference with Russia. We came to the agreement during the crisis, me and Soviet Union have exchanged letters and other communications. And on October 26th, Khrushchev sent me a message detailing in which he offered to remove the Cuban missiles in exchange for a promise by the US leaders not to invade Cuba, which we agree. The following day, the Soviet leader sent a proposing that the USSR would dismantle its missiles in Cuba if the Americans removed their missile installations in Turkey. We will disregard this information in the second letter, but we will definitely enforce the first one. Therefore, we finally came to agreement on October 28th and therefore have concluded the Cuban Missile Crisis.
I placed nuclear missiles in Cuba in order for a defense on the United States in case of an attack.
I don't think those measurements are necessary, as the United States is working with many different other nations in order to conserve national peace and also international peace. So therefore, I just think these weapons are very provocative against our other nations and ourselves as well, and we have a great concern for our security internationally and as a nation as well.
Okay. Well, we also want to focus on the security and the safety of the people in the Soviet Union and the protection of our country.
I agree that protection is a big thing for each individual country. Protection is very valuable. There's no accounts of the nuclear missiles being built. It was just straight being built in secret. That's why we were concerned.
I understand. And I understand that you also have had spy planes looking over Cuba at our nuclear missile sites.
Well, that's because you guys are being secretive, so we have to be secretive on your secrets.
Okay. Well, I also noticed that you also have missiles placed in Turkey.
Yes, well, Turkey is just a safety measure. We have business within Europe, and Turkey is there in order to make sure that our business in Europe is going well. It's just a safety concern. And then same with Cuba, we have business with them, so your missiles are concerning us, since we also have relations with specifically Cuba and Latin America.
Okay. Now, I understand that we're in a situation that is pretty tense, and I want to come in an agreement. If you are capable of removing your missile sites in Turkey, we will as well remove our missiles from Cuba and halt all imports into Cuba.
That sounds like a deal to me. So I will have to shut down the blockade around Cuba if you're able to do that. I guess we can look into the fact that we're taking down the missiles in Turkey. That's definitely something we can look into. And that sounds like a deal. No missiles from Turkey are coming down.
I think that's an agreement then.
Okay.
That during the crisis, the Americans and the Soviets, so we and the Soviets, had sent an exchange. Bleh.
Oh my god, hey!
But we're America, so
Damn.
we sort of run everything, you know? No, but, for me, we're not taking down missiles from Turkey.
Lisbeth Santos, please report to the main office.